Hello, my name is William Huth, and in my presentation I will be focusing on the photographer Emanuel Wranitzky, also known as Man Ray. This quote basically summarizes how Man Ray viewed the photographic medium. To Man Ray, photography, the camera itself, was another tool at his disposal, just like that of a paintbrush. Emanuel Wranitzky was born in the fall of 1889. The first time Emanuel attempted to create a piece of art was when he was a child. In a newspaper, he saw a graphic picture of the USS Maine exploding in the Havana Bay. He attempted to copy this graphic picture, and this became the moment that he grew a deep-seated interest in art. As a young kid, he possessed many skills. He was a talented builder, and he could fix things. He was even an inventor. As a child, he used the wheels of another kid's toy, a toy which he had stolen, and used a wagon to produce a locomotive. However, instead of being impressed by her son's skills, Emanuel's mother destroyed his invention because she knew he stole the wheels from another child. This began the process of him and his mother becoming more distant emotionally. He entered the boys' high school at the age of 14 and excelled in many subjects. In school, he learned draftsmanship, architecture, engineering, and lettering. However, none of these fields interested Emanuel as much as art. Emanuel would spend lots of time going to museums. There, he would study the work of many great artists, paying close attention to how they made their work, especially on how the light hit the faces of the subjects. His parents wanted him to succeed in school, but they didn't look positively on his interest in art. They viewed it as self-indulgence, and an interest that would prevent him from becoming successful in life. Man Ray received high marks in school, and was offered a scholarship from the New York University. Despite his parents' interests, he chose to turn down the scholarship that the New York University offered him, and instead he pursued his interest and love of art. Emanuel's mother learned about his choice, and she was very disappointed. Yet strangely, his father showed more support towards his son's artistic interests. His father would even move the furniture in their home to create a space for Emanuel to work on his art. When Emanuel could not afford art tools and painting materials, his father would find the money to pay for them for his son. Emanuel was fond of the idea of moving to Paris. He told his sister Dora, who he had dragged around to the museums that he frequently visited, that the reason he wanted to go to Paris was because of the art. During his time at his hometown, he worked as a painter, and his interest in the interplay of light on the subjects in the portrait grew. Man Ray died in Paris in 1976. In his young days as an artist, Man Ray visited the 291 Gallery in New York City, which was owned by Alfred Stieglitz. Through Stieglitz, Man Ray became more interested in photography as an artistic medium, rather than one that served solely as documentation. Stieglitz taught Man Ray the art of photography, and eventually, Man Ray learned on his own through experimentation. Prior, Man Ray used the camera as a means to record his own other artistic pieces, but eventually, he experimented with the photographic processes in order to make photographic art. In New York City, Man Ray spent time focusing on the Dadaist movement with his friend Marcel Duchamp, and they tried to get the public more interested in the ideals of the Dadaist movement. One of the most recognized Dadaist works Man Ray created was The Gift, 1921. However, due to a lack of interest by the public, they gave up on the venture. Coupled with a failed marriage, Man Ray decided that it would be best to move to Paris. He worked in Paris in many different forms of art for the next 18 years. Here, he would create some of his most iconic surrealist photographs, such as Glass Tears and Le Violon de Ingres. Man Ray also worked in commercial photography to make money to support his pursuit of creating higher art. Despite working in a photographic medium, fashion photography, that was considered by many fine artists to be less than art, Man Ray still applied his artistic vision in his commercial work. He used the interplay of light on the subjects in unique ways, and had a minimalist look when it came to the environment the subject was placed in. Man Ray also created a new photographic technique that he called the rayograph. This is when you place an object on light-sensitive photographic paper and expose it to light. However, Man Ray added something new to it. Instead of letting the objects sit statically on the paper, he would move them around, and he would also mess with the light, turning it on and off and moving the sources of light. He also experimented with solarization and created many pieces using this photographic technique. Man Ray eventually returned back to the United States. However, he did not like the fact that he was more recognized for his photographic work instead of the other pieces he had made that was not connected to the photographic medium. Man Ray was a leader and prominent figure in pushing the mediums of Dada and Surrealism in Paris, and inspired many photographers with his iconic pieces. Now this photograph right here is a rayograph, and you can see that this photogram is a lot different from regular photograms. There's a lot more energy to it, and that's because Man Ray would take the objects that he was photographing and move them around, and he would also move the light source around and turn it on and off, so it makes these unique looking photograms. Here's some other examples of rayographs. Here's a very interesting rayograph that he made. This is of his lover Kiki, and she's drinking a wine glass, and there's an egg right above the wine glass. And he made this to celebrate the love that he held for Kiki. This is a side view portrait of his friend Marcel Duchamp. This is one of his most popular surrealist pieces. This is of a mannequin with glass drops placed on its face. Another photograph. Now this photograph right here really represents kind of how he did his fashion photography, because you would have a really prominent figure, but then you have a background that's completely bare, there's nothing to it, and it helped draw the viewer's interest towards the subject being photographed. Here's another photograph. Now this is another surrealist piece that Man Ray made, because you can see the little dust people in the corner. Yeah, this is a front portrait of his lover and muse Kiki. This is a portrait of Pablo Picasso, an artist that he held much respect for. Here's another portrait of another famous person. More of his work. Now this photograph right here is an example of solarization, and this is a photographic technique that Man Ray would use throughout his photographic career. So Man Ray worked in many different artistic mediums and was self-motivated. His creativity would lead to the creation of some of the most recognized pieces of the Dadaist and Surrealist movement. He pushed Dadaism and Surrealism into the public interest and helped in making these two movements even more popular. Besides from working in photography, he also worked in many other artistic mediums, which he would create many other well-known pieces. He was well recognized for his photographic work in America. Through his fashion photography, his photographs recorded famous celebrities of the past. Consequently, the style that Man Ray had employed in his fashion photography, the way he used the light, and the minimalist look he applied, changed how future fashion photographers would photograph their subjects. His work would also influence many different pop artists, conceptual artists, and modern photography artists, such as Bill Brandt, Andy Warhol, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, Irving Penn, and Richard Avedon. Many of Man Ray's photographic works were donated to museums by his wife, and are still displayed today.